Welcome to TAPintoTV. I'm Stephanie Willoughby, coming to you from East Main Media Studios in Little Falls, New Jersey. On this week's show, we speak with Meghan Lukin of Hoboken's Washington General Store. Joe Travers, also known as the Vaultmeister, discusses his role as archivist for the Zappa Trust. Cheryl Mucha tells us about her financial consulting business and how she helped clients during the pandemic. But let's begin with my conversation with Captain Bill of Hackensack Riverkeeper. I'm joined by Captain Bill of Hackensack Riverkeepers. Captain Bill, how are you today?
Oh, fine. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you here. I want to get right into it. Can you tell our audience about the devastating fire at your headquarters?
May 16th, I had been out on the river all day aboard one of our vessels, and I got home around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and at 5:30 the phone rang, and it was my program director, and he told me, "You better get up to Hackensack, the building's on fire." And I was totally astonished by this message, so I jumped in my truck and I drove up there, and as soon as I got out of Secaucus and heading north on through Bergen County, I could see a column of smoke in the air from miles away, from 5 miles away. And I was like, oh my God. And when I got up to Hackensack, there was 3 different fire companies there. They had a couple of aerial ladders that were dumping water on everything. And the flames were shooting through the roof of the building next door. Some of those flames shot through the roof of my building, through a skylight that we have in the office. And there was only one big scorch mark inside the building, but the rest was all water and smoke damage. The smoke damage was, it smelled like the inside of a fireplace. And the water damage, we had over 2 feet of water in our basement, just standing water that came in through the skylight, came in through the front door and the back door. One of my friends who is a professional firefighter, he saw some of the pictures, and his remark to me was, the Hackensack Fire Department did a great job of saving your building. Of course, all of the contents are gone. Right now, Hackensack Riverkeeper is the proud owner of an empty box on Main Street, and we're trying to put it back together.
I'm so sorry. That is really devastating. And the enormity of it, if you could see it from 5 miles away and then knowing that that's your building.
Yeah, it was pretty devastating moment, you know. But like I said, my staff rose to the occasion. I want to do a shout out to the ServPro, because ServPro came that night. They boarded up the building, and they were back on Monday morning. And they stayed with us right through the whole process of emptying out the building. You know, the optimistic part of my life, I say to myself, this is a way to start over. And when we go back into the building, hopefully it'll be more efficient and it'll serve our purposes even better. But we have a long way to go.
Captain Bill, where can people go to find more information on donating?
The easiest way for people to donate right now would be to go to our GoFundMe page. GoFundMe.com. They'll find us. The page should come up, and they can help with the cause. You know, we're gonna have a lot of expenses, and some of them are going to be unplanned expenses, because I've been around long enough to know that you can't plan for everything.
Captain Bill, let's take a look at our interview with you from last year.
In the 1990s, the Meadowlands, which is the estuary of the Hackensack River, was under siege by developers, and we were losing habitat, we were losing species, we were losing water quality, and nobody really was worried about that. They were more worried about building office buildings and warehouses. When I founded Hackensack Riverkeeper, that was my primary focus for the first several years that the organization was running. In order to reach the public, we have several programs that we do. We do our pontoon boat cruises, where we take about 3,000 people a season out on the river. And then we have our river cleanup program. And this year we broke any records that existed. We did over 40 cleanups within the watershed of the Hackensack and the nearby Passaic. And we've mobilized about 1,200 volunteers to do that work, took out about 25,000 pounds of garbage. Our most recent victory is the victory to stop another fossil fuel power plant from being built in the Meadowlands. It took us a little bit over a year to get Governor Murphy to come to his senses, but he did, and he announced about a month ago, a little bit more than a month ago, that he was opposed to the project. And the very next day, the principals that were promoting the project backed away. We had 50 towns that passed resolutions in opposition to this thing happening. 50 towns did resolutions to the mayor and council, and almost all of them were unanimous. So I guess they finally realized this is not a popular idea, and if we're ever going to wean ourselves off of fossil fuels, you can't do that by building new fossil fuel facilities. You have to spend your money. If you're going to spend your money, spend it on renewables. And if you're not ready to do that, then get into another business. We're pragmatic. We know these in post-industrial sites, it would be next to impossible to restore them to any habitat value, but they can be restored for economic value and for community benefits. And that's what we look for. We want the best deal for the river and the best deal for the communities. Over the years, we've been able to, bring the Meadowlands to a much better place. We now have over 8,000 acres of wetlands that are permanently preserved in the Meadowlands. And I've got over 275 species of birds and about 70 species of marine life that are back into the Hackensack River now. So the river's in recovery. It's got a long way to go, but I'm working on it, and my staff is working on it day in and day out, and we're making a difference.
Captain Bill, thank you so much for joining me in studio today. It's really great to see you.
It's really great to get out of the house and be here in the studio so we can see each other, distanced but face to face.
Agreed.
What is TAPintoTV? TAPintoTV is the flagship video channel within the TAPinto hyperlocal news network. Not only are we producing original video programming, but we're also developing branded content for industries including business and finance, health and wellness, arts and entertainment, and more. The TAPinto network reaches a dedicated audience of over 8 million subscribers and users, with over 30 million unique page views last year alone. Nearly 2/3 of the TAPinto audience views TAPinto content 5 to 7 times per week, and almost half of that audience bought a product or service because they saw it advertised on TAPinto. TAPintoTV content is automatically distributed to over 40 affiliate websites within the TAPinto network. And not only have we recently launched a dedicated Roku channel, but we produce a weekly half-hour broadcast television show on News 12 Plus, which reaches over 3.5 million homes across the tri-state area. We know how to tell your story, and not only can we professionally produce it, but we can effectively distribute it as well. For more information about how TAPintoTV can help you, visit tapintotv.net or email us at tapintotv@gmail.com.
To watch more TAPintoTV videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel at TAPintoTV.
Hi, Meghan. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Stephanie. It's great seeing you.
It's awesome to see you too. It's been a minute. I haven't seen you since Homegrown was in Hoboken at your store, Washington General. And I'd love to just check in with you, see how things are going.
It's been a whirlwind for sure. I think if anyone told me this was going to happen 6 months ago, it would have blown my mind. So we're just making adjustments, and we keep, plowing through, trying to eke out as much business as possible with the help of our supportive community here.
What kind of adjustments have you had to make with the business?
We've been taking orders on Instagram. It's been an interesting way of doing business, but technology is a wonderful thing. And I think that we are taking advantage of everything at our fingertips right now. We don't have an e-commerce website, so we had to immediately figure out how we could continue to do business without that website there. So We take orders on Instagram. We've been posting several items a day with sort of quantity and a price attached to it. So customers, it's just like they're in the store. They can go and browse our Instagram and they can just message us or text us with whatever they're interested in. We'll put packages together. We'll put gift packages together. We've been doing a lot of quarantine packages, which has been really fun to see what people put together. And we've also been creating those boxes ourselves. So whether it be the healthcare box or the Mother's Day box, those have been really well received as well.
Awesome. Let's take a look back to when Homegrown visited the Washington General Store. You know that feeling when you need a gift or a chandelier or just to go someplace that's totally inspiring? That is the Washington General Store. Let's go on inside and explore what makes this a favorite in Hoboken.
I'm Meghan Lukin. I'm a Hoboken resident, Hoboken mom, and a Hoboken store owner.
So we're in Washington General Store. I love your store. I love everything in it. It's really tempting to just touch everything. Do you have people in here constantly just touching the items?
Yeah, but I think, that's the really important part of still shopping local is that you can't get that online. So, you're finding the product, you're picking up, you're smelling it. It makes it really tangible.
Yeah, I think that that's a really good point. It's one of the things I love the most about shopping small and supporting small businesses is that we also see you here, right? And we get to know you. And then I think there's like this emotional connection between, I'm sure, yourself and then customers that come in. Can you tell us a little bit about the people that are shopping here at Washington General?
Yeah, they're the Hoboken resident. We run the gamut from really the student who just graduated, the student that goes to Stevens, maybe their parents are visiting. We've got young families that are moving into town. Maybe they needed a little more space from Manhattan. And then we've had people that have been here their entire lives. So we have a really great mix of people in this community.
Like, I feel like it's kind of nice to give somebody a gift certificate to some place like this too, so that they can kind of choose, because all the items in here seem so personal, which is a credit to you. I think I'm sure that attributes to, your success that you guys have had here.
Yeah, we really try and curate the products. We buy from over 200 vendors, so that you're not just walking into a store that seems like a mall store that you can kind of find anywhere. We really try and make the assortment something that seems special. So every item you pick up has like sort of a story behind it, or you kind of can pick something up and know exactly wwho that's intended for. So
yeah, that's how, exactly as you're describing it is exactly how it feels in here.
Good.
Yeah, no, it does. It feels like, it feels like a hug. It really does. Because it's just all of these things in a certain, I guess, period in your life, especially in the kind of adulting era of your life, where it becomes a priority to give a gift to someone, or a housewarming gift, or a new baby, or whatever the heck it is. And it seems like you guys have it all here. So it's really beautiful. I really enjoy it. I want to talk to you a little bit about, since you've been here for the past 5 years, we've been talking a lot about how Hoboken has been in this like renaissance, right? So moving out maybe a little bit less of just the bar culture. And your store, I think, attributes to kind of welcoming in that like family vibe and modern female vibe. Can you talk to us a little bit about the changes or transformation you've seen in Hoboken?
Yeah, well, actually, I started seeing that when I moved here 8 years ago. And that was kind of where the whole idea came from, was I had that need. I was looking for, I was no longer going out to the bars. I was going to housewarmings, or, my niece was born and I needed a great gift to give her. So it really kind of followed my own metamorphosis into adulthood as well.
How has it been for you as not just a business owner, but also a resident? How would you describe Hoboken to someone who hasn't visited here?
It's a very unique community, very much rich in history. Our waterfront is unrivaled for sure. But, it's so interesting. We have a really old history of people who have lived here for their entire lives and are been generations of family members who have lived here. So you'll see old shops that have been here forever. And then you have the complete other side of it where it's new families moving in. So it's kind of this combination that is really nicely married together in what feels like a small town, but is actually a very urban lifestyle. And that's, for me, what's so important about living here is that, you know, you live the urban lifestyle. I barely ever get in my car. I can walk to everything I need, but at the same time, I pass familiar faces all day long.
What kind of community support are you seeing there in Hoboken?
We have the Hoboken Business Alliance, which has really helped kind of repost some of our posts, which has been helpful. We have a great blog in town, Hoboken Girl, who's done a number of shout outs for us. And then, you know, we really do have a local loyal clientele. The minute they found out that our doors were closed, we had an influx of people just wanting to support, you know, no, please, no rush on delivering it to me or shipping it to me. I just want to support.
Well, Meghan, I just want to thank you for your time today. I know that you are a super busy woman, but I'm really impressed with the way that you have pivoted your business. And I'm so glad that we got a chance to speak with you again today.
So nice to see a familiar face.
Same. Hopefully we will see you soon on the other side of this.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much.
Take care, Meghan. Thank you.
You too.
As our communities begin to reopen, it's important for businesses of all sizes to let their customers know how they're moving forward, and we're here to help. The TAPinto Network is the nation's fastest growing hyper-local news provider, and TAPintoTV provides unmatched video marketing capabilities. TAPintoTV utilizes multiple platforms, including broadcast television, social media, our brand new Roku channel, and don't forget the incredible online search rankings that our content delivers. When you're ready, we're ready. Call or email us today. We'd be happy to help. It's time to get back to business. Well, I am thrilled to be joined by Joe Travers on the show today. Joe Travers, the Vaultmeister of the Zappa Trust, fabulous musician, toured with so many people, including Mike Keneally. Joe, thank you so much for joining me today. We have so much to talk about.
Yeah, nice to see you again, Brian. Thanks so much for letting me come on and chat with you.
Would you tell my audience what your job is as the archivist, as the Vaultmeister for the Zappa Trust?
Yes. Well, I started in 1995 doing the archiving and the digital preservation of the assets in Frank Zappa's vast vault. And it's been, 28 years or so now. And it's been an unbelievable experience. You know, for the longest time, I worked, right next to Gail, doing all these projects. And now Amit and I are together as a joint production team, just pumping out release after release.
You mentioned the vast archive of Frank Zappa. Can you give us a little sense of what that really means? And I've been lucky enough to see the old archive, the former location in the Hollywood Hills, and it truly was vast. But can you give me a sense of what that really means, how big it was?
Yeah, of course. Well, Frank was recording as much as he possibly could for the longest time. I mean, I think he started in the 50s. The thing about Frank is that because of the timing of his career, I mean, literally, he's like a pioneer with all the different formats. So when you go in the vault, there's like every format that you can frigging think of is in there. And it's such a trip because you have to have the machines to try and play all that back. But also his scores and his music and pictures and articles and slides, master slides, and all the album art, the original album art from all the releases. I mean, it's a lot of stuff.
I want to ask you about a couple of these releases. One of the most recent releases was the Mother's 1970 release. Could you tell me about that?
Yes. Well, every year we have a production meeting, and we always talk about what are we going to do for future projects, the upcoming future projects for the following year or whatever. And one of the things that we always take in account is
what are the significant anniversaries in Frank's career, for that particular year? And so when we were talking about the stuff that we were going to do for 2020, well, what were the significant, things that happened in Frank's career? So for 1970, what happened in 1970? Well, a lot of stuff did, but significantly, the formation of the Flo and Eddie Mothers was kind of a big deal. In the vault, there really wasn't a lot of stuff in there that significantly represents that band. Frank did release things, but not that much live stuff from that band. It was the following year, 1971, that it got a lot of attention because there was more opportunities for that band to be recorded professionally, like multi-track, multi-track live recordings and stuff like that. Sure. In 1970, that didn't happen that much at all. So when we talked about, well, can we do an anniversary release on the formation of that band? It's like, well, what do I have to choose from? And I knew that there was a lot of just kind of like stereo recordings that weren't really unbelievable, but stuff that Frank was recording on his own. And even though the sound quality of that stuff isn't unbelievable, historically, it's really it's a really fun listen. And so I tried to gather up as much as I possibly could from that band, which lasted 8 months or something like that. Yeah. And see if we could put together something that would be an enjoyable listen. And so thankfully we have these really great studio recordings that happened at Trident Studios in London, all of which nobody has ever heard before except for one song. So that was just like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff here. And then you implement some live material from that time period, and there you go. That's how that came together. And it's doing really well. People are very excited about it because it's such a rare time period,
Sure. Well, what's interesting, I want to point out for people who aren't closely aware of the arc of Frank Zappa's career, I wanted to point out this idea of the different kinds of bands that he assembled and what vocalists meant in those bands. When you look at later in his career in the later 70s into the 80s, and you had him working with Ray White and Ike Willis, and then you look at the more earlier Mother's work where it's really his 60s sound, right? And that 1970, this switch to working with Flo and Eddie, and then what comes out of that band heading towards his album, like One Size Fits All down the road. And this is beginning a very interesting period for you, looking back at these 50th anniversaries. There's a lot of incredible, really groundbreaking music that's about to start hitting these anniversaries. So you're really in the catbird seat here. You got some good stuff.
Yeah.
Joe Travers, thank you for joining me. It's always great talking to you. Joe, thank you, man. Be well.
Thank you.
To watch more Tap Into TV, follow us on social media at TAPintoTV.
I'm joined by Cheryl Mucha from CFO Your Way. Cheryl, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Of course, you recently took part in our ABA roundtable discussions here at East Main Media, and I wanted to make sure to follow up and learn a little bit more about your company and your background. So tell me about CFO Your Way. Tell me how you got started and how you help businesses.
I realized in the local family-owned business community the need for financial accounting support. At the time, I was working for a family-owned business and saw that I could do this for more than one entity at a time, more than one business owner at a time. So I moved over from that full-time position into helping all of our clients, many clients all at the same time, realize their financial goals and prepare them to grow and become a really integral part of their communities. As you know, businesses are the heart of any local economic community and an essential part of keeping them viable. So we at CFO Your Way create pathways for these businesses to remain a part of that community for many, many years to come. We work with the business owners to kind of broaden their scope of how they use their numbers so that they can be more strategic and a little less transactional. Our team, the CFO Your Way team, becomes an extension of each and every business that we work with. We roll up our sleeves and we work side by side with them so that they can grow and remain a part of their community. You know, especially in these economic times, that the last thing a business owner wants is to be caught by surprise by not having enough cash flow. So planning is a key part of what we do for our clients.
I'm well aware that you and your team helped countless small business owners during the pandemic, especially with PPP applications and requirements. And can you tell me a little bit about how you helped your clients during these past 3-4 months?
We received a lot of phone calls from clients and even potential clients that, you know, there was panic in the air. Do I apply? Do I not apply? Am I eligible for forgiveness and whatnot? And those non-clients that called us did not even have the financial records they needed in order to apply for the grants and the funding. And it puts them at a great disadvantage. Our clients were ready to apply for whatever they qualified for, and we helped them through those application processes to make sure that they not only applied for the right funding and grants, but also had the information they needed to make that whole process very smooth.
So a business wants to take things to the next level. Maybe they know that their financial records and accounting are not up to par. They come to you. What's the first thing you do to get them on the right track? How do you embrace these new clients?
So the first thing we do is learn the client and what they're doing currently, because we don't want to recreate the wheel or force the client into doing something they're not comfortable with. The next step would be setting them up on an accounting platform if they do not have one. We use QuickBooks Online pretty much 98% with our clients. We do use other accounting software, but QuickBooks Online is teachable, easy to use, easy to train a client to be able to access it and get the information that they need. Once we get their accounting records up to date, we then start talking to them about what those numbers mean. And then once we have a good understanding and the client has a good understanding of the numbers and what they mean, then we can start looking into the future. How do we save some cash flow? How do we look at profitability for maybe different business verticals? What is their debt, and are they using it transactionally, not strategically? And by that I mean, if you're using your debt strategic, you're determining how you're going to use it to further the growth of your company. Right. As opposed to transactional, it's just, how am I going to pay this debt back?
So Cheryl, tell me about the different levels of services that you offer.
So we offer services ranging from bookkeeper to accountant to controller to CFO. All these roles are part of our firm, right, and we customize who we put in the client job depending on the needs of the client.
So what's the key takeaway for entrepreneurs and family-owned business owners? What's the key takeaway about how you can help?
Not only do business owners need to be aware of their expenses and their revenue and the cycles around those two categories, but they need to look at their profitability as well from a vendor service point of view.
Cheryl Mucha, CEO and founder of CFO Your Way. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Brian, for having me. I appreciate your time.
To watch more Tap Into TV, follow us on social media at TAPintoTV.
Tune in next week for another episode of Tap Into TV. Don't forget to follow us on social media, and you can watch any of our video segments anytime at TAPintoTV.net. Thanks for watching, and please stay safe and healthy.
Wow, am I lucky to have Mr. Joe Travers on the show today, the Vaultmeister at the Zappa Trust, joining us from the West Coast. Of course, I blew that. I'm a blooper machine, Joe.
That's okay.